Welcome back to the deep dive. If you've ever been at a festival or maybe a museum and seen a whole crowd of people dancing, but in total silence, these glowing headphones on,
hmm
you've seen the silent disco revolution. And today we're diving deep into that exact phenomenon.
It's an idea that, on paper, it just sounds absurd. A party built around silence,
Completely.
but it became this massive global success. Our sources today, including accounts directly from the founder, Aaliyah Torres, they really show how this thing went from total ridicule to a staple at events worldwide.
And that's really the core question for this deep dive, isn't it? How often do the world's biggest innovations start out as something that just sounds, well, dumb?
Right.
We're looking at disruptive creativity and that special kind of blindness you need to pursue an idea that everyone else is laughing at.
Exactly. So our mission here is pretty surgical. We want to analyze the specific stages Aaliyah went through. We're tracking the journey from that initial joke right through the early failures and then the big turning points.
So by the end, you should have a clear map of how an idea like this survives.
Yes. And the wisdom you gain when you challenge the very definition of a party.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to
Yeah.
start with the spark. Where did this quiet rebellion even begin?
Well, the setting is kind of this perfect cocktail of creativity and just exhaustion. It was a late summer night at college,
Okay.
and Aaliyah was trying to host a social gathering, but there was this one constant crushing problem. The campus had incredibly strict noise rules.
So a classic infrastructure problem. You have the desire for community, for loud music, but it's clashing with the rules of the space.
Precisely. Aaliyah described it as this perpetually high frustration. Every single time they try to host an outdoor event, campus security would come and shut it down.
And the party just dies.
It would just fizzle out, guests leave disappointed, music's off, and that recurring pain point,
Right.
the inability to have a fun outdoor party, that was the pressure cooker.
That sounds like the perfect setup for a creative pivot, one born just out of pure annoyance. So the party gets shut down again. What happens next?
Aaliyah goes back to their room, just completely defeated, sad, annoyed that bureaucracy killed the vibe again.
We've all been there.
Right, so they just throw themselves on the bed, put on their own headphones, their own playlist, and just start dancing alone.
The ultimate solo rave.
Yes, but in that moment, that private, personalized rhythm where the music was loud and it was exactly what Aaliyah wanted, it contrasted so sharply with the public failure just minutes before.
And something clicked.
Something clicked. The concept was almost childishly simple. Why can't we all have this private experience, but, share the space together?
That's a fascinating leap.
Yeah.
But it's one that requires you to immediately suspend your disbelief. I can only imagine what happened when Elia first pitched this to someone.
Oh, it was met with hard laughter. The very next morning, they pitched it to their roommate. What if we use wireless headphones for a party only we can hear? The roommate just laughed incredulously. Their first question was so telling. So, everyone just looks crazy dancing to nothing.
That visual is everything, isn't it? If you take away the sound, you take away the context, and all you're left with is people swaying awkwardly in a silent room.
That's the vulnerability of the idea right there. The sources say every single person Aaliyah told gave them this weird look or just burst out laughing.
Wow.
But crucially, Aaliyah didn't see this as failure. They saw it as a challenge. The more ridiculous people found it, the more curious Aaliyah got about proving them wrong.
I want to dig into that. What were the actual criticisms beyond just, it looks weird?
The main attacks were all about how it failed the purpose of a party. The big one was that it was fundamentally antisocial.
Well, to be fair, that's a valid criticism, right?
Yeah.
If the point is communal energy, headphones inherently isolate you.
It's a very valid point, and Aaliyah couldn't really argue against it at first. People were focused on the tech, not the feeling. Party planners they talked to were skating. One said it was like dancing in an elevator.
Sterile, awkward.
Exactly. The consensus was flat out, nobody wants to wear headphones at a party.
And how did that land when they tried to make it official? Because pure mockery is one thing, but institutional rejection is another.
That led to the most stinging rejection of all. Aaliyah pitched it to the campus event club, looking for advice, maybe a little funding.
And they were met with.
Giggles. And one club member apparently muttered, loud enough to be heard, "Isn't the whole point of music that you share it out loud?"
Oof.
That dismissal, it just compounded all the self-doubt. Aaliyah nearly scrapped the whole thing right there.
It's so easy to quit when the mockery is that loud. And yet they didn't. So let's get to the first attempt, because the source material makes it clear this was not a smooth start.
Not at all. It was the definition of bootstrapping. Despite all the doubt, Aaliyah started very, very small. They pulled all their money to buy just 20 used wireless headphones. 20. And they weren't sleek. They were these big, bulky conference headphones. Aaliyah made some truly terrible DIY flyers and went to the student council with one promise: zero noise complaints.
Desperate promise.
Yeah.
So what were the results of that first official silent disco?
It was catastrophic, just a total unmitigated flop.
Define catastrophic for us.
Okay, so out of a whole campus of students, only 7 people showed up.
7.
7. And the technology was awful. The headphones kept cutting out, so people would just stop dancing mid-song. Half of that tiny crowd left in the first 10 minutes. It was just too awkward.
I can just picture Aaliyah standing there watching 3 or 4 people shuffling in silence. The external judgment must have been brutal.
Oh, immediate. The event got nicknamed the Library Rave, and that name stuck. Then the official rejection came. Campus funding denied their applications, saying the idea didn't fit student engagement criteria.
The financial rejection must have hurt. But the sources point to an even lower moment, something that really tested Aaliyah's resilience.
That was the public shaming. The absolute low point wasn't the tech failing. It was when the mockery went viral on campus social media.
Viral how?
A photo? It was a viral meme. A still photo from the event of 3 people swaying, with a caption suggesting they were at a meeting for people who like bad ideas.
Yeah.
That public humiliation made Aaliyah genuinely question their own sanity. Imagine seeing your biggest failure turned into a campus-wide joke.
It's so hard to come back from that. You start to think, maybe they were all right. Maybe this is just a fundamentally embarrassing idea.
And that's the emotional blow that stops 99% of disruptive ideas, right? Aaliyah went through a really dark period of self-doubt. The idea was functionally dead.
So the idea failed technically, socially, financially, and publicly. What on earth kept them going after a flop that comprehensive? There must have been some tiny shred of hope.
There was, and this is a critical turning point. Just 2 days after the event, when Aaliyah was about to throw the headphones in the trash, a few messages came in.
From the 7 attendees.
From just a handful of them, 2 or 3 people. And the messages were simple, but so powerful, they just said, "When's the next one?" That was strangely fun.
Strangely fun. That's such a specific compliment. So what was it that those few people actually liked?
This is the strategic nugget. They loved the freedom. They loved being able to pick their own music channel so they weren't stuck with one DJ's taste.
Ah, the choice.
And they loved dancing without feeling judged. It was that individualized, intimate experience that resonated, even with all the terrible tech glitches.
So the key insight was realizing the idea wasn't the mistake. The mistake was confusing a bad prototype with a market launch.
Precisely. They stopped listening to the hundreds who hated the concept and started listening very carefully to the 3 people who loved the feeling it created.
And that gave them the fuel to double down. So what was the new strategy?
First, fix the technology. Immediately, they got some loans, rented much better, reliable headphones. They realized the tech had to be invisible. The experience was the product.
Okay, that makes sense.
Second, they stopped trying to appeal to everyone. They targeted smaller friend groups for more intimate, sort of in-the-know events.
Moving from general marketing to community building.
Exactly. And this targeted approach worked beautifully. The parties grew organically, word of mouth. From 30 people to 50 people who already got it, there was this sense of a shared secret.
And this organic growth, this eventually led to the big breakthrough moment, right? The one that took it beyond the campus.
It did. That moment came when a local club noticed the buzz around these small parties. They offered Aaliyah a spot during a big citywide summer festival.
So the first real test at scale.
And Aaliyah described the feeling of that first full house, a venue packed with hundreds of people, as just transformative.
What was the energy like? How did it differ from a traditional party with a huge sound system?
It was this unique, kind of beautiful chaos. Everyone was dancing intensely, but they were also laughing, swapping channels, pointing to their headphones to tell a friend to switch.
A different kind of interaction.
A nonverbal one. And Aaliyah realized the silence was actually liberating. It proved the idea wasn't just surviving. It could thrive on a massive scale.
And thrive it did. So describe that rapid growth once it proved itself, because the scaling must have been explosive.
It was exponential. Once the local press covered it, the calls just didn't stop. Event companies, promoters. Aaliyah scaled fast, handling multiple bookings, not just clubs, but weddings.
Weddings? How does that work?
Yeah, where maybe half the guests want rock and the other half want pop. And corporate fundraisers, even beachfront yoga classes. The silent disco started transforming the format of social events everywhere.
But that kind of rapid growth brings its own chaos. The logistics of managing thousands of pieces of tech must have created a whole new set of problems.
The challenges shifted completely. It wasn't about rejection anymore, it was about pure logistics. Charging thousands of headphones at once, managing inventory, shipping, and the most complex part, playlist licensing across different countries.
It sounds like a constant high-stress roller coaster.
It was endless, sleepless nights, technical glitches in new venues. It took a huge personal toll.
Right. The sources mention a significant personal cost came with that success.
A classic trade-off. Aaliyah lost some old friends who just thought they were consumed by this weird headphone business. Grades suffered. But the counterbalance was huge. They met new people, industry leaders, and introverts started reaching out to thank them.
Why introverts specifically?
Because the silence created a more inclusive space. It took away the sonic assault of a loud club and the pressure to have shouted conversations. It made parties feel safer, more accessible.
The disruptive power wasn't just noise reduction, it was social accessibility. Which
Exactly.
brings us to the core wisdom. So, stepping back, looking at this whole journey, the ridicule, the failure, the success, what are the most potent lessons here?
Aaliyah's biggest takeaway, which they shared later, was this: never let embarrassment kill an idea. They said, if people laugh, you might be onto something truly disruptive.
The lesson that real disruption always looks a bit foolish to status quo.
That's it. And the deeper insight about connection is that genuine community can bloom in the quiet, sometimes because of the quiet. By removing that one overpowering sound, it created space for personal choice, which paradoxically made the shared visual experience even stronger.
You connect by seeing someone else's joy, not just by hearing the same bass drop.
You've got it.
Thank you for guiding us through
Yeah.
this. Aaliyah Torres's story really hammers home that genuine change often starts with a risky, awkward spark that looks like a joke.
Mm.
The next time you have an idea that makes someone giggle, maybe lean into that discomfort instead of away from it.
And that leads to a final thought for you to take away from this. The silent disco worked because it gave people freedom and lowered the social pressure of a traditional party. It let people participate on their own terms.
Right.
So we have to ask, what other opportunities for real connection are being stifled in our lives just because we assume they have to be loud or visible or universally approved of? Where else is the noise covering up a more personal, more genuine experience?
Powerful question. Keep inventing, keep moving, and never underestimate the power of an idea that everyone else is laughing at. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.